This is Mo Bashir for The Hook. Delighted to be joined by Joe Edwards. Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
You're the founder of BoxStep, a company that manufactures gym equipment and kits out gyms as well. You've done wellness clubs, sports teams, festivals. I know that done operated in many more sectors. But I wanted to start by talking about your early career because you started out in football, right? That was the dream for you
Yeah.
growing up. Just give us an insight into what it was like for you growing up and what the football dream looked like.
Growing up, I just obviously always wanted to be a footballer, and I was fortunate enough to get signed by Oldham Athletic when I was maybe 13, 14, and then that sort of continued to the point where I had to move to Oldham when I was 16, and I did a 2-year scholarship with them. Obviously, it didn't work out, but then I again was fortunate enough to be a part of the PFA, the Professional Football Association. So they essentially funded my university degree to go from, or to transition from football to being a physiotherapist, which is a career I stayed in for about 6 or 7 years before I started BoxStep. But yeah, the dream was football. I was switched on enough to know that I probably wasn't going to go far, and that's why I decided to make the transition into higher education. And yeah, just sort of pursued the career in physiotherapy, which ultimately led me down the route of what I'm doing now.
You know, with the PFA like helping to fund your like university education, I feel like that's something that isn't like spoken about a lot. Do you think like A, how did you find out that they can fund your education? Is that something that they tell every single player? And B, do you think it's spoken about enough? Like, do you think every single player knows that they can get a university degree funded through the PFA?
That's a hard one, because I feel like, yeah, it's when you start your apprenticeship, it's pretty much drilled into you straight away that education is going to be a big part of the apprenticeship. So we used to go to college like maybe once or twice a week or something like that. I can't remember, but so education is a big part of it. Now, whether as a person you take that seriously or not is depends on you as a person. I took it incredibly seriously. Like I always prioritized it, make sure that when we went to college, I was always doing the work. I was never behind on like any assignments and that kind of thing, because I always had it in the back of my mind that this could potentially not work out. Now that's a on one hand that's a good thing. On the other hand, it could have set me back a little bit because I wasn't all in on the football. Does that make sense? So I feel like there's no right or wrong answer. Some people who've made it probably didn't prioritize the education side, but I did, and whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But it just depends on what you're like as a person. And in answer to the second question, I feel like a lot of people do know that it's an option. The PFA is a very good at like supporting you through like anything that you're going through as a footballer, whether it's like health issues or whether it's education. And there's always like a representative who's like available for you to speak to. So I feel like you're very well supported. But again, it does just boil back down to what you like as a person, whether you want to accept that help or whether you're switched on enough to know that it's there to go for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I ask is because like there's always this big thing with the PFA that maybe they don't help or maybe there isn't support available. That's something that I feel comes out of like football as a whole. So hearing that from you is actually quite surprising. But just touching on that point before we get into your story, like, do you think like what is the biggest thing that's stopping footballers from like maybe transitioning more smoothly from playing football to then outside of like not playing football, because it's obviously not the PFA because they're helping by
Yeah, I
the
think
sounds.
obviously it depends on everybody's circumstances. People exit football through injuries, which is unfortunate. People, don't really take the education side seriously, like I said, which then restricts them later down the line because all people can see is like the football side and they're all in on it, which again isn't right or wrong, but it later down the line it does come to bite you in the backside, and most for the most part a lot of footballers earn good money. That obviously the higher up you go, but you know, all like your League One, Two, conference players and stuff like that. You know, it's difficult for them because you can't just retire and on the money you've made. You need to be proactive and get out there, have some qualifications or have some kind of, you know, plan for when you exit football. And yeah, I think the PFA from my experience have been amazing. Really, I can't fault them.
Yeah, fair. And then why physiotherapy? Why not anything else?
So the initial plan for me was to try and stay in football in some way. That was how the physiotherapy degree was sold to me through the PFA. It was like, you know, it's a good opportunity to stay within sports and do this and that. And then the more you learn on the course, the more you learn that there's other sides to physiotherapy that you know that you may be interested in, that you have to complete in order to do the degree. So there's, you know, respiratory, neurological, you know, musculoskeletal, pediatrics, all that kind of thing. So during the course, you essentially do a different placement in each of those areas, and I found that neurological physiotherapy was like my thing that I liked, which then steered me away from sports. And also, you're also working like a normal 9 to 5. You know, if you go back into football as a physiotherapist, you're then restricted by like holidays and all that kind of thing. And I just wasn't ready to go back in, and I just pursued the neurological side, and built like a decent career in it, working with some great people, and that's how I sort of ended up in physiotherapy.
Oh, do you mind like touching on the neurological side? Is that like more mental? Like what was your day to day in that?
So I was working for like a private company, for a private clinic, which had subcontracts for the Walton Centre, which is like a huge neurological hospital in Merseyside. So we had like subcontracts to go into like different units that were associated with the Walton Centre and provide physiotherapy for people with like traumatic brain injury, like stroke, Parkinson's, you know, like you name it. Like we used to go in and treat them and try and get them like either back on the feet or just get the mobility better, stuff like that really. And I just found it like really rewarding, and that was my way of sort of keeping in with like the physical like fitness and health side without going into football. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then why the pivot into entrepreneurship? Was that something in the back of your mind, or?
Well, I always wanted my own clinic, my own physiotherapy clinic, and I toyed with the idea of doing it. I wasn't in that game though. You sort of need experience, and I'm talking like 15 years experience where you know you really earn your credits, and people start taking you like really seriously. It's not something you can just do after like 3 or 4 years. You can do it, but you know, I feel like you don't really start learning until like, you know, 5 years onwards, in my opinion, just because there's just that much knowledge that you need to you know, take in and stuff. So I was getting to around the 5 or 6 year mark, and I was like toying with the idea of maybe, you know, doing my own clinic and whatnot. And I've realised that there was like a bit of a ceiling to like how much you could earn, which sounds terrible, but at that point I just really wanted to push on a little bit more and do well for myself. Now, throughout all that, I've always trained. I've always been into fitness, and you know, a bit of a fitness fanatic. So I feel like the gym equipment, I had this idea one day of like just selling treadmills. So I was like, at the time there was only Curve treadmills on the market that were worth maybe like 6, 7, 8, it's up to £10,000, but maybe by like 2 companies. So the first sort of product I started selling was like a really cheap Curve treadmill that was imported from China. Sold all them, went again, bought more, sold them, developed like more of a product range, got some more like ski ergs, air bikes, that kind of thing. And then over the course of like, you know, 2 or 3 years, I had like a catalogue of like maybe like 10 to 15 products. During that time, COVID happened as well, so like there was a real high demand for people to try and get gym equipment for the house. Basically, all the gyms were shut, and that's how I started.
Or with the treadmills, you was so what is it? You ordered a lot of stock to come to your house, or like you was it like how did you
How did
buy
I
and
get
sell
how
it?
did I
Yeah.
get them? So to be honest, it was a bit of a blind order on like Alibaba. So I just seen the treadmills. I just assumed they were like, you know, they were going to be like amazing. They were decent. They weren't
Yeah.
like, you know, terrible, but you know, that you wouldn't put them in like a JD gym or anything like that. So it was a bit of a blind order really from Alibaba.
How much was the order, if you don't mind me sharing? If you don't mind me asking.
I want to say maybe like $2,000 for maybe like say 5 or 6 treadmills or something like that.
Yeah.
So they were on the cheaper side, and I was fortunate enough that the family had like a really like old like smelly lockup somewhere in the city centre. So I just stored them there, like, and just sort of like had my fingers crossed for like 6 months that they'd sell, and I was actually stuck with them for the first sort of like six to 8 months. Couldn't really sell them, and then I don't know what it was.
How were you trying to sell them?
Just through like contacts
Word of
and
mouth.
stuff. Yeah, contacts. I think I set up like an eBay page or something like that. I started selling them through eBay. That was good. And then eventually, sort of COVID happened, and then that's when the attention and drive and the demand for the equipment came. And then at that point, I was ready to like, you know, buy more stock and stuff. So that's how it kind of started.
Okay, so you bought them before COVID.
I bought them before, yeah. So the timeline of events was like
Yeah.
I probably purchased them maybe like 6 months before COVID, maybe 6 to 8 months before COVID. Might have sold one, but like I was stuck with like 4 or 5. COVID happened, sold them all, then just went again.
Okay,
Do you know what I mean? So it sort of just happened like that.
Like you bought 4 or 5 the second time, or did you, or
No,
did
I
you like
think-
see the demand and you're like, I need to buy 10?
No. So I bought 5 or 6 again because I wasn't sure like how well it was gonna go. You know, when you're in the moment, I didn't really like think, you know, we didn't know how long COVID was gonna go on for, and I also didn't really understand that it was COVID that was driving it. I just edged on the side of caution. I was like, right, let's just go again and place another order for 5, and see how it goes, and just keep my fingers crossed. And that's how it went down.
And then how quick did you sell the next 5?
Really quick, probably within like 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And then
Was that local, like
had no
around
stock
it?
again. Yeah, like around Liverpool. Actually, no, it wasn't. I did sell a few for around Liverpool, but when I remember getting an order for like somewhere in London, and I was like, shit, how do I send a treadmill to London? I had no idea.
During COVID.
During COVID as well, yeah. But to be fair, the couriers didn't stop during COVID. It was more just the sense of like, right, I know how to send a letter through the post office, but like, how the fuck do you send like a treadmill which is like 150 kilos in a box, like, you know, which is huge. I was just like, shit, how do I send this? So that was interesting, and then that's how I sort of learned like the logistics side of it, like, you know, sending stuff through palletways and all that kind of thing.
How do you send a treadmill to London from Liverpool?
How do you?
Yeah.
Through palletways on a pallet network.
Okay.
So you have a pallet, you strap it to the pallet, and then it goes in its box. But the very first order that I had, because we were assembling them and sending them out assembled, you can't, like, it's really difficult to just balance like an assembled treadmill onto a pallet. So the guy was like, well, you can't take this. I was like, well, you're gonna have to. You're here now. He was like, it's not even strapped to it. It was just balanced on top. That was the first order I had. And then in the end, like, I was like, right, can't do this, because I think after 2 or 3 times after doing that, some stuff was getting damaged, like during transit and all that kind of thing. So we ended up just sending them out in the box. So that's how it happened.
And then what was the transition from treadmills to other equipment?
I think the transition was just, I think after I sold that second block of treadmills, I was like, right, there's other options available here. They were also like, I wanted to bring the cost of the customer spend down a little bit as well, because like we were selling the treadmills for like, say, between, I don't know, £1,500 and £2,000. The ski ergs were like, say, 700, something like that. So they were just a little bit more attainable for people.
Wait, so you bought 5, 6 treadmills for £2,000. You're selling each one for 6 treadmills altogether for £2,000.
Yeah.
You're selling one treadmill for
£2,000. Yeah. It was just that was just.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we were buying them for cheap, and then you'd pay like the import duty and VAT and stuff like that on it. So maybe a little bit more than what I've said, but there was good money in it. So, and because I was like because I was on my own doing it. It was I could just do stuff like that. I just didn't really think twice. I was like, that maybe because actually maybe that's why I didn't sell them at the start. You know what I mean? I think like people like £2,000 for a curved treadmill in the industry was cheap, but like for somebody just logging onto a website or eBay would have looked at it and been like, wow, like that's
So
really
what's the
expensive.
difference between curved and normal treadmill? Is it
So a
in
curved
terms
treadmill is
like, why would
non-motorized.
someone go from curved to normal?
A curved treadmill is essentially a non-motorized treadmill. It's like running on like a hamster wheel, so it just gets powered off like your own momentum on the belt. Whereas a powered treadmill, what you'd see in like a commercial gym, is obviously powered. It's flat and it has like an incline, decline, and that kind of thing.
So during COVID, the curved treadmills were just selling.
I think if I'd have had any piece of gym equipment, I feel like I'd have sold it during COVID. That's how it was, but I just so happened to have the curved ones, which probably lent itself more to home because they're slightly less bulky. Didn't require a power source, so people, didn't require any energy and spend on that side. So that's probably why I sold them so quick. But in hindsight, I think if I'd have had power treadmills, weights, I probably would have sold them as well. But I just didn't have at the time, because I was sort of using my own money and stuff. I was really like cautious on what I outlaid. I've always been like that. We don't like have any investors or anything like that in the business, so everything's sort of self-funded. So I always edge on the side of caution in that respect. And I think back then I just didn't have the nuts to just go and buy loads. I just wanted to be careful.
And sorry, I think we got caught off about like you branching out into other machines and stuff. How did that? Well,
I just think the costs per spend needed to come down per customer. I just wanted to offer more, and like once I'd sold the second batch of treadmills, I was like, I could make a business out of this, because I just felt like a bit of a wheeler dealer at that point. But in order to really like take the company on and push myself and develop it, and ultimately the goal was to like leave physiotherapy. In order to do that, I knew I had to offer more, so that's just how I started to delve into like ski ergs, air bikes. What else did I have? I had like, some pieces of boxing equipment and that kind of thing as well. So
was that all of the same guy, or was it just different?
no difference. Again, the started off as just like blind orders. Like I just ordered them and hoped they arrived and they were good. And to be fair, they were decent. We had a few problems with the first batch of ski eggs, which that was really stressful. But yeah,
Well, what happened?
no, I just think like things were going wrong. Like the manufacturing wasn't great on them. They probably had like after like say 6 to 8 months, like the strings had started to break on them, and I wasn't sure, because I'm not like an engineer I don't have an engineering background. I couldn't understand why these things were going wrong. So after that, I'd sell them 6 to 8 months later. The customers were like, how do I fix this? And I'm like, shit, I don't know. I need to learn how to, I need to understand these products more. And that's how, any product that we have now, I have a full understanding of how, like, the intrinsics of it. I know how to fix it. Like, we hold parts. So if things do go wrong, like it can be resolved much easier. Whereas back then it was like, if something went wrong, I was like, shit, I didn't know what to do. So.
And then, okay, so then that happens. When did you get into the designing and like building gyms?
So after sort of going through that process of like trial and error with like multiple pieces of equipment, we had like a decent product like catalog, and then I got introduced to a property developer in Liverpool who needed a gym basically for a scheme that they were doing, and it was big. It was like this was like the first full fit out that I think at that point we'd done like a few home gyms and that kind of thing, but this one was like, we need a full gym fit out for the residents. Can you do it? And I just said yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's have a go, and we did a really good job. It's a nice gym. When it came to assembling it, I was like, right, because I'd usually send the kit out and, you know, the customer would assemble it. For this, like, it required like us to actually go and assemble it. I didn't realize that there was people out there who would like, who you could pay to do it professionally. So like literally me, my dad, my granddad were on site, hard hat, high vis on, assembling all the kit. I think we had a floor fitter come in and fit the floor. And we turned it around in probably like a week or something like that, and it's still up and running today. It's still going strong. It's a nice building as well. So
Yeah.
that was our first job, like first proper gym fit out that we did.
That's amazing. And something I wanted to pick up on that as well is like, obviously you could have paid someone to do it, but I guess at the start, is there a valuable lesson there in just like, if I do everything, I know how everything works. Because if you got someone to pay them to do it, like you probably wouldn't have had the experience of assembling a gym.
Yeah.
So is that like, okay, well, you're glad you just did it because you now know what it entails?
I think so. The two answers to that really. I think one boiled down to cost, because I just said yes to the job. I just sent an invoice and for the equipment. I didn't charge for the installation, so I subconsciously I didn't really want to like, because I hadn't been paid for the installation cost. I didn't want to then pay like someone professional to come in and do it. And then on the other side of things, there was a couple of items there which like were new. We had like a seated leg extension and what else? Maybe like I think it was like a new squat rack or something like that. So from then, I wanted to see it. I wanted to assemble it. Do you know what I mean? And it was almost like that project meant so much to me. I just wanted to like be involved and be there and make sure it had my stamp of approval on it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And then when it came to like doing the invoice and stuff, obviously it was your first one. Looking back on it now, like, was it a fair charge? Do you think you do you think you charged less, or was it fair market price?
No, it was fair.
Yeah.
It was fair. It was definitely on the lower side, I would say, but I didn't like overcharge or anything like that. I just wanted the job. I just wanted to be like, I wanted to like prove to myself that I could do it, and I wanted to just do a good job for the client. So I just put in like a fair price, and that's what we always do, to be honest.
And then when did you leave your like physiotherapy?
So I think it would have been when did COVID end? Probably like 2022 or 2023.
Going on.
Yeah, say like 2022 or 3. I don't know, but it was probably like 2 years into starting Boxster. There was a point in time where I was because the business was getting busy, and I still had the responsibility of like treating people, and a lot of my time was spent doing that. There'd be periods of time where like I'd have to leave my phone and Boxster to aside whilst I was treating patients. So there was a point where like I had a guy who was like face down on the bed, and I think I had my elbow in his back or something like that, and I could see my phone going off over here. So I'm like, had one elbow on his back, and on my other hand, I'm like texting like a courier back because there was something like that needed picking up, or like they wanted, I don't know what it was, but any good physiotherapist to tell you like that is just like something you don't do. And I feel like that was my turning point where I was like, I can't do both of these. I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do. So I think maybe like a week later, I had a call with the boss of the physiotherapy company, and I said, listen, I was actually really embarrassed that I was building a company on the side. I don't know why. No one knew I was doing it in work. So I was like, her name was Claire, it was Claire. And I said, I've been building a business on the side, selling gym equipment during COVID. And I think they were like, really? So I was like, yeah. So I said, it's been going all right. And I think I'm going to just make a decision on what I'm going to do. I think it's best that I leave physiotherapy and just pursue this. And that's, I put the phone down, and I just remember thinking like, what have I done? Like, because I had a mortgage, bills and all that kind of thing. And I just shit myself basically. I was like, what am I doing? And I put the phone down, and maybe like, I don't know, an hour later or something like that, I'm walking down the prom in Liverpool. And when you get an order through Shopify, it makes like a cha-ching noise. I don't know if you know that. So I was walking, I just heard cha-ching, and I was like, what's that? So looked at the phone, it was like a massive order for like a load of gym flooring. So I was like, yes. So that gave me like a little bit of confidence, like that I'd made the right decision, really. It was like I said, when I put the phone down, I think I went to call it a boiled shite. I just didn't know what. I was just doubted myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just like a big jump. It was quite scary, and then that happened, and I was like, yes, thank the Lord.
How come you felt guilty like building a company on the side?
I don't know if I felt I don't know if that's the right word, guilty, but I felt more like embarrassed that like I was building a company, just because like I was kind of worried that like it was gonna go wrong or it didn't work out, and if I was telling people I'm doing this and and then like I turned up one day and they go like, how's that little business going, and I'm like, it didn't work out. I feel like that's why. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I just felt like it was just like a project in my mind. I just wanted to keep it separate. And I don't know, I didn't want people asking me about it. I just wanted to build it and see how it went first before I then like shared it. But yeah, a bit of a weird one, really.
What was the goal with it then when you went full time? Like, was the goal to just stay into gym equipment? Like, did you have a goal in your head that you wanted to hit, maybe revenue or profit?
No, I just wanted to have like my own time back. I just wanted to have like the freedom day to day of because I was so restricted running the business whilst I had the job as a physiotherapist. There was just certain things that I couldn't do. Like, I couldn't put time into like marketing properly. I couldn't put time into, going out and meeting people. I was relying heavily on like my dad and my granddad to send orders out whilst I was in work. So I just felt like that side of things needed fixing, which is why I made the jump.
Oh,
Really.
and when was your first? Obviously, you had your dad and your granddad working for you, but like, what was your first hire after to that?
So, marketing. Yeah, marketing. Johnny does all the videography. He liaises between, us and the ads company that we use. He has like a timeline of events. He has like a timeline of content that we're creating for like a month, so we know like a month in advance like what we have on and that kind of thing. So I still do a lot of stuff day to day. Like, I pretty much, aside from that, one man band, but it's that side of things just made us more professional and just give us like a more like premium look to it, as opposed to like just like a trader of gym equipment. We're now like a brand. And Johnny's like been a big part of developing that. So
Is that so for anyone starting out wanting to is in a position to make their first hire? Do you think marketing is the one that they should look towards? Because I guess that's what's going to generate new leads to get.
yeah, I think so. My main aim was to just get customers like through the door, so to speak. Get them to the website and drive traffic that way, because I was holding stock. So that, for me, that was my main aim, and it's not something that I was particularly good at. So I felt like, you just got to look at like, pick your strengths. I'm good at like product, and although I am good at marketing, I just didn't have the manpower to carry that out. So that's where Johnny comes in, really.
Perfect. And then talk to me about this festival.
Creamfields.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. So
how'd you get that?
So we did a full gym fit. So to give you like a timeline of events, we did like an amazing gym fit out for a company called Nomad, which are based in Hoylake. So they've basically renovated an old abandoned library in Hoylake and converted it into like a state-of-the-art gym. It's got like infrared light therapy. They do yoga, like really nice changing rooms, all that kind of thing. Anyway, we did the full fit out on the gym side for it. We completed that, got on really well with the founder Jenny and her husband Peter, and Peter turns out is friends with the Barton family, so they founded Cream. There was like a famous nightclub in Liverpool called Cream, which then turned into Creamfields. So from there, he introduced me to them. He said, "Joe, Creamfields are after a gym for the festival this year." So I'm like, what? Like, why would you put a gym in Creamfields? And Creamfields has a reputation for being like pretty heavy. It's like an EDM, it's like a dance and techno and house music, all that kind of stuff. So it gets quite wild. They're like, we want to develop this downtown area of the festival so that people don't get bored from like morning up until like 3 o'clock from when the acts start. We want to put a gym in. So I was like, right, okay. Again, I'm thinking, how do we put a gym in the middle of a field, and that kind of thing. So from there, we just started coming up with a few ideas of how, like a few concepts and stuff, and then we come up with like a container idea. So like we essentially got 3 containers, 2 20-foot, 1 40-foot, put them in like a U shape. Worked with a company to like basically fit it out and give it power supply and put the windows in and stuff like that. And we fitted it out with like a load of strength equipment. We had like a breakout area in the middle, which had like some cardio equipment, like sled push, battle ropes, all that kind of thing. And then they like craned, when the festival came, when it was time to set up, they essentially just got craned into position. It was like dead cool, to be honest. So that's how it came around. We just got introduced through a customer. And yeah, it's funny because we actually got, not us personally, but it was met with like a lot of resistance.
I've seen the backlash online.
Yeah. So like it got met with a lot of resistance. People thought it was people thought it was box step just as like a brand activation, like let's just put gym equipment there. But really, like, Creamfields bought the equipment and just gave us like free reign essentially to develop this gym for them. So it's owned by Creamfields. We just supplied the equipment. But we ended up both getting like a bit of stick for it. A lot of people were like, who's going to train at a festival, all that kind of thing. And then the day it was set up and the day it started, it was packed, and it was packed from like start to finish, like over the course of the weekend. There was like at times there was like max capacity. I think we maxed it out at like say 40 people just wow. From a health and safety perspective. Like, you could have had more if we wanted. So yeah, it was interesting. It was really it was one of them. It was a bit of a pioneering moment, really, because on Creamfield's part, I'm not taking full credit for it, but they had the vision to sort of go down that route, and they were also offering like 5-a-side football and stuff like that. So there was a few other like little niche things going on, not just the gym, but it was all just geared towards developing this downtown area. And it turned out to be a massive success.
Well, I guess it is like, there is some like validity into what they did, because they're doing a bit of research, and apparently 1/3 of 18 to 24-year-olds don't drink alcohol. The industry is set to boom to a value of $1 trillion by 2027. I think that's the wellness industry. So yeah, I guess, it
makes sense.
Yeah, they're within the rights. And it was busy, right?
It was really busy. So I can't remember the festival abroad that done it first. I'll be able to find out for you. But they were the first people to do it in Europe, and then Creamfields are the first to do it in the UK. So, but exactly right. I feel like the wellness industry at the minute is just booming. Every other industry seems to be like sort of not collaborating, but like integrating wellness into their systems and operations, I feel. So yeah, Creamfield's done a great job with it.
And then just on that point, is that like, obviously there's a shift in the way in which people choose to socialize. Have you noticed an increase in like orders from people wanting home gyms that are just like normal everyday professionals?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. Well, I always say, like, back in the day, the ultimate flex in your house was like a cinema room, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Like, or a cozy room, something like that. And I feel like now the gym side is like so much bigger. People are having like, you've seen people with like the inflatable ice baths, little one-man saunas, home gyms, like any spare room or space that people have now. I feel like a lot of people are sort of prioritizing or allocating that space to wellness related stuff.
Perfect. And then final couple, because I know we've been going on for a while.
That's right.
What was I going to say? Yeah. So the goal starting out to where you are now, did you envision that you'd get to this point? And also as well, like, what are you hoping to achieve going forward? Is it to scale up internationally? Like, how big do you want this to become?
Yeah. So, sorry, repeat the first part of the question.
Like, do you want this to, I guess the goalposts have changed from like when you started to now, as in like the goal, the vision.
Yeah.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but has it gotten bigger than you thought it would, or was this always how you envisioned it to be?
Listen, if you'd have told me, like, say, 3 or 4 years ago that we'd be in the position we're in now, like, I'd have been not shocked, but it would have been hard to imagine. Do you know what I mean? But at the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm really self-driven as a person, and I feel like I wouldn't have, I'm miles away. We're miles away from where we need to be, but at the same time, we're doing incredibly well.
Where do you need to be?
We just need to be growing and competing on the top level. Really, we need more product. We need to be competing for like bigger contracts and stuff like that, and we are heading that way. It's just a case of like keeping our heads down, I suppose, and just cracking on and learning, evolving constantly, and just trying to develop the company. And it's quite cliche, isn't it? But you just need to make yourself like 1% better in any area each day. Then I feel like it just sort of spirals that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that as well. Like sometimes I find myself just, I don't know, like being a bit impatient or not trusting the process. But it is true. Like if you just stick at it, you'll get some opportunities come your way when you least expect it. That's one thing I've found out.
Definitely. It's like there's a saying, if you go out fishing, you catch fish. So I feel like if you're out there just hustling, working and keeping busy and stuff, then eventually something's going to happen. There's times where you'll have not dry spells, but you mightn't be as busy, but as long as you're using those times to develop the company, develop yourself, make yourself 1% better, like I said, I feel like that is that's ultimately how you grow. So that's just what we're going to keep doing.
And then finally, do you think your sort of journey from football, you think that journey in sport really helped you? Were there any transferable lessons from sport into business?
Yeah, I think from like a mindset perspective, I think the ability to just show up every day and work, I feel like that's just instilled in you, like, from football. I also feel like being a part of a team gives you like that interpersonal kind of like the interpersonal skills that you need to like go out and meet people in business. So like, even when I started Boxstep, you could probably put me in a room with anyone at any level and I could hold a conversation with them on like about anything. And I feel like, people like to work with nice and good and hardworking people. So I feel like that is what football gave me to then go on into business. And like I said, yeah, just the ability to just show up and be consistent and just work. That as well, I'd say.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to end.
Cool.
Thanks so much for your time.
Nice. Cheers.